intern, first week on the job, first story by myself. What are my options? I can turn around and crawl back through the fence and say, forget it, I'm not getting this story. Or I can make my way up the long, winding driveway up to this house and try to track down the Zoe the Source story. So I chose option 2. So I start walking forward and the zebra kind of skirt off a little bit and Zoe just stares at me. Like, what are you doing here? So I continue to walk forward towards her and she kind of skirts off a little bit. So I get my video out and I get the footage I need. And then I start making my way up the dirt road. Well, you ever had that feeling that somebody's watching you or like really close to you, like maybe hovering over your shoulder? Well, that's the feeling I got. Not such a good feeling to get when you feel like you're in African safari land. So I'm kind of like hesitant to look behind me, but I finally do, and sure enough, there's a donkey right behind me. And this little donkey, I mean, we're talking like a foot. I don't know if you've ever been around a donkey, but they're friendly. They want to be your friend. So he's just like walking up like, hey, how's it going? And I walked faster, he walked faster. I walked slower, he walked slower. He just wanted to be my buddy. So me and the donkey walked our way around the zebra and the Zorse, all the way up to the front porch. Well, nobody's home. So I'm knocking, I'm ringing the doorbell, nobody's there. It's really a huge place, so I'm kind of, calling, hello, is anybody, outside maybe? Can't find anybody. So I decide, okay, I guess I'm gonna leave and talk to some neighbors and see if they saw Zoe the Zorse out. So I turn around to make my way back down the driveway. And I scan the area because I don't need any more, donkey surprises. And I look over to the bushes and there's a horn sticking out of the bushes. This can't be good. So I just very cautiously make my way to a point where I can see, and of course, I encounter a Texas Longhorn. Full-grown, full-size Texas Longhorn. Now, I don't know if you guys know any of this, but I went on Google and looked up the fact that Texas Longhorn's horns from tip to tip can extend up to 7 feet, and they can weigh up to 1,000 pounds. Now, according to everything I read, they're typically gentle, but I wasn't about to find out. So I decided it was about time for me to get at them. So I made my way back down the driveway, exited the fence, talked to some neighbors. Turns out, nobody had seen the Zorse. Nobody knew the Zorse was out. So I'm not really sure if I was following a story or if maybe that was some intern initiation, like, hey, let's see how she does with this one. So who knows? So during my trip, not everything was all Zorses and fairy tales. As a matter of fact, I had to write some pretty intense stories that were really hard to take, and I kind of had to learn how to take some of the devastating stories that I ended up having to read. And one such story was, there was an actual house explosion. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but reporters don't take the word explosion lightly. If you're going to use the word explosion, it has to really be like a kaboom explosion. So I am in the newsroom, and my roommate Susan, who I was supposed to be shadowing, was actually covering another story at that time. So I was the only one on that shift covering, listening to the police scanner. There's all this commotion going on the police scanner. They're sending like 10 fire trucks and 5 ambulances, and all these emergency personnel are headed out to a place called Flower Bluff, which is near Corpus. And so one of the editors comes again, running over to my desk with a scanner and says, go get this story, and a camera. So she hands me both of these things. Well, I don't know where I'm going. She's just like, go, go, go. So it's mass chaos, and I literally physically run to my car, jump in my car, and head to Flower Bluff. And I finally get there, and they have streets blocked off, and so I had to park quite a few blocks away. And I get out and, show the policewoman my little press badge and tell her what I'm doing and why I'm there. And I start making my way towards the billowing smoke that I could see about 2 miles away from where I was at. And I'm walking, and I look at the ground, and I'm seeing shreds of insulation. Turns out it was house insulation that had launched in the blast for blocks and blocks away. So not really sure what to expect, don't know what's going on or really what even happened. All we had heard was a house exploded. So I walk onto the scene, and it's just eerie. There's flashing lights, there's people screaming and crying, and neighbors are standing around watching, wondering what happened and what's going on. You know, it's a really tricky situation to be in because it's a touchy situation. You don't want to go prodding people for answers when they don't have any answers themselves, but at the same time, you have to get your story, and there's people in the newsroom waiting for you any second to call them with an update. So the first update I get, the first brief that we received was that they had found human remains, but they had not determined how many people they belonged to. So it was a pretty serious incident. It was really hard to breathe. The wind was blowing the smoke right in our face. You could see insulation all the way up in the palm trees. As you can see in this picture, that is actually the roof of the house that was blown all the way up and forward onto the vehicles that were in front of the house. So it really was an explosion. I think they determined it ended up being gasoline and a bunch of other things.